Boom! Welcome into Sports Bet Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy, Tuesday, September 26th. Dave Mason, BetOnline, the deep dive. Recap a huge weekend for the books. Players took it in the shorts. We'll get to that coming up. Big game breakdown, the Thursday night game, Bears and Packers. And tonight, the Cubbies try to wrap up the division. Magic number down to 1. They're on the road to take on the Cardinals as well. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. A tough beat if you had the over, like our play of the day last night. 46.5. 28-17 Cowboys. Arians, that ship has sailed. I'm sick and tired of people saying he's a great coach. They were favored in 12 of their 16 games last year and couldn't go 500. Their win total was bet up from 7.5 to 9 in some spots in Vegas. They are 1-2 with the only win in overtime against the Colts. You have to kick the field goal at some point. He was just being stubborn at the end. That's third-grade math. Why do you punt down 2 scores late in the game, too? And it was a wild game, Teddy. I'm not a big momentum guy, but when you get a touchdown called back and then Dawson misses the chip shot field goal, they said it going into the halftime. How the hell is this game 7-7? Dallas was loving life.
Well, one thing that we always want to pay attention to is how teams respond to adversity. All right, Arizona did not respond well to adversity last night, and that stands out like a sore thumb. Their first home game after being on the road for a month, front of a huge national TV audience. You know, they take a gut punch. All right, the touchdown gets called back, the field goal gets missed. They did not respond well to that adversity. That's certainly a warning sign moving forward. And look, we can't call it a bad beat on the over. The score was 7-0 with a minute left before halftime, but that was a tough beat for over bettors, man. You had the touchdown called back on penalty. You had the missed field goal. You had that ended up being a 9-minute drive with no points. And, you debate, could Arians have kicked the field goal late? Instead, he went for the touchdown. I don't blame Arians for that. I don't think that's a wrong coaching decision. I don't think you point the finger at the coach because the touchdown didn't work out. But the bottom line is they had an 85-yard drive. They had a first and goal late in the game, and they didn't put any points on the board there. So the game stayed under by a point and a half against the closing total. It's a tough beat for overbettors, no question. But is it Arians' fault that Carson Palmer took a beating last night? That Cards offensive line is injury-riddled to the max right now. Palmer was sacked 6 times, many of them against 3 rushers. And, of course, Arizona lost the game despite a 75-45 advantage in offensive snaps. They were on the field for much longer than Dallas, but the Cowboys 6.1 yards per play, Arizona only 4.4. That was certainly a difference maker.
He's done it before. He did it a couple years ago in the playoffs with the clock management, throwing the ball when Green Bay was out of timeouts, which allowed Rodgers to have time with the Hail Mary and take them down the field. And, it's a math game. You're down 2 scores. At some point, you need a field goal. Gruden wanted him to kick it with 1:45 left because at that point, even if you get the onside kick, you're not going to have enough time to do anything. So that was ridiculous.
Okay, just because Gruden says it doesn't make it right. And Gruden's like,
you need 2 scores. It's common sense. What's wrong with you? You need 2 scores.
What do you mean it's common sense? You need 2 scores, exactly. You're driving down the field, okay? Get the touchdown, and then come. You're going to have to recover an onside either way. Your choice after recovering the onside is, do we attempt a field goal or do we attempt a Hail Mary? It's 6-1, half dozen the other. To say it's definitely right, you have to kick the field goal here. That's not correct, Pauly. It wasn't correct for Gruden to say it. It's not correct for you to say it. It's not. This has to be this way. It's, well, you can do it this way or you can do it that way. And the fact that Arians chose a way that didn't work, now the fingers are pointing. Bruce Arians, you suck.
Jesus
3 years ago,
Christ.
Bruce was the best.
When did you become Skip Bayless? You need 2 scores. You've been watching football your whole life. You bet games. You need 2 scores at some point.
Yes. The question is, which one do you get first, the touchdown or the field goal? You do need 2 scores. I understand math in that regard.
You also need time. But what good does it do if you score with 30 seconds left?
Because you're going to have to recover the onside and kick the field goal. That's the whole, the whole thing comes down to you recovering an onside kick and then getting another score. Whether it's a Hail Mary at the final score or whether it's a field goal at the final score for that second score, that's the difference. But obviously, Pauly, you and I both knowledgeable about sports. We're allowed to disagree on this kind of stuff. The bottom line is tough beat.
Not on this, not on this, because there's a right answer. That's why you want to kick the field goal early, so at least you have time if you get the onside kick, which is what Gruden was talking about. I wasn't in love with Gruden because Dawson was a 42-yard field goal. He already missed the chippy. All right, in any event, the markets were crazy last night. Look at a 70-cent move on the Phillies. The listless Phillies. I know they like Nola, and there were lineup shenanigans, but the Phillies were steamed up from $1.30 to $2. They lost 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of love for Nola in the betting markets, and he's likely done for the season now, 12-11, 3.54. But this is a pitcher you want to circle for 2018. He's going to attract significant market attention. But of course, lots of love for Nola. There wasn't much love for A.J. Cole and the Nats bullpen behind him going up against that Phillies lineup, but Washington shut them down. And it's not like the Phillies lineup's hot. They hadn't scored more than 2 runs in a game since last Thursday. Yeah, there was lineup money against the Nats, but you know what? 3 runs was enough. That was a bad bet. All that money steaming on the Phillies ending up being $2 favorites.
So was this one. What was this all about? Nolasco is second worst in all of baseball in ROI for starting pitchers. It was maybe anti-Shields or they need the game. They were betting on the Angels last week against the Indians, who had that great winning streak. And it's Nolasco. Shields actually has been good the last month since they tickered with his mechanics. They open $1.45, close $2.15. Shields gives up 2 runs in 7 innings, 4-2 White Sox.
Yeah, I mean, when the market's back a losing team like this, in a must-win situation, it shows you all the traps you're going to find in these must-win situations. Yeah, there's been steady money for the Angels. They've been losing for the last couple of weeks. And, of course, the markets hate James Shields, but let's give him credit. He's competed like a pro for a bottom-feeder team, and he may be back for someone else in 2018 when the markets are likely to fade him again.
All right, and one more. The Cubs-Cardinals total, 8.5 down to 8. Weaver gave it all up himself. Cubs got 4 in the first. Weaver gave up 8 runs. Baez had a 3-run shot. He's been great this year, and the markets have loved him. But here, that was a bad move on Weaver and also the under as the Cubs won 10-2.
Yeah, I mean, lots of money on the under in this ballgame. And as you mentioned, Weaver allowed it all by himself. This kid is a grade A prospect, another guy who you can expect significant market support for in 2018. But this was his first major pressure game at the big league level. What do we say? Luke Weaver failed.
That for the books, a makeup game at 10 in the morning on the West Coast. Yankees bet up from 170 to 205. They win 11-3. All rise. Judge hits 2, sets the major league record for most home runs by a rookie. He's got 50. Royals essentially done now, 6 back with 6 to play. Yankees magic number 2 to host a wild card play-in game.
Sure, and when you're talking about the all-important run differential, with the betting markets take very, very seriously, the Yankees significantly better than your average wild card team in that regard. But I mean, as for Kansas City, nice run, Pauly. You talked about, they were a big favorite of yours. They were making a whole bunch of money June, July, after that rough start. But KC just didn't have enough. Now 6 games back with 6 to play.
2 more. Braves, game 1 of a doubleheader, opened $1.05, closed $1.38, $1.40 in some spots. They beat the Mets 9-2, and the Astros Rangers total 10, bet up to 11. They imploded, and it was a 8-run fourth for the Astros as they won. What was it? 11-2 Astros over the Rangers.
Yeah, well, 7 of those 8 runs were unearned against Andrew Kashner in that 8-run fourth inning. So it was the Rangers defense that imploded. But I mean, the markets don't need much of an excuse to play against the Mets right now. That Houston, Texas total got steamed up from 10 to 11. Those were both bad results for the books in MLB action on Monday night.
Up next, big game breakdown. Thursday night football. Green Bay at home against Chicago, and the Cubs and the Cardinals tonight in MLB on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Go to SBROdds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Hey, back on SportsBit, Pauly and Teddy, Betting Insight today. Big game breakdown, always sponsored and powered by BetOnline. Exceptional customer service, strong promotions, and every type of wager we're looking for out there. Thursday night, CBS, Green Bay at home. The Packers against the Bears. Green Bay 7, 45.5 the total. The Chicago offense graded out well overall against Pittsburgh, but it was mostly a one-trick pony. Stretch handoffs over and over again. The Steelers couldn't figure it out. Howard had 23 for 138, and Cohen had 12 for 78. But then, as we've talked about, who's Glennon going to throw to? because they have all these wide receivers and White's hurt again. Who can Glennon count on if Green Bay and other teams figure out and stop the run?
Nobody. I mean, 12 of Mike
No.
Glennon's 15 completions went to running backs. He had only one completion for 9 yards to a wide receiver for the entire game. Deontay Thompson caught one 9-yard pass. Look at the graphic. Howard, Cohen, Cunningham, between them, a dozen completions out of the 15 that he threw. Mike Glennon's not chucking the ball downfield. It's all running backs right now for the Chicago offense. Now, the good news is that the Bears' offensive line is as healthy as it's been at any point in the last 2 seasons. And they were, as you mentioned, able to physically dominate Pittsburgh up front. Whatever adjustments the Steelers made, and they didn't make many, Chicago was able to counter. But when we look at the ability of Chicago to rally back from behind, should they fall behind, we saw it in week 2, wasn't pretty when the Bears tried to come back from a deficit. Now, the Packers, they're going to have seen these stretch plays. I don't know that Dom Capers' 2-3-6 nitro defense is going to have the right personnel to stop these plays. Green Bay's new defense is designed to stop elite passing games. It's not designed to stop power rushing games.
Well, I don't know I don't know how good this defense is. Also, they have a ton of injuries. They had all these guys that were hurt or doubtful, questionable before the game. I give the home team the edge on the short week. The Bears have been feisty at home. They were blown out in the one road game at Tampa. So one thing, too, Tony Romo was on the game Sunday. He said once the Bengals got past their 20 scripted plays, Green Bay would be able to adjust and figure it out. And he did. They did. He was right. After the 20 scripted plays were over, Cincinnati scored 3 points the rest of the game. So who knows where you're at with this defense. But with the offense, it's been said by many, I think they're right. They're wasting the prime of Aaron Rodgers' career, not surrounding him with weapons and a solid running attack either. I mean, Rodgers doesn't have a lot to work with either.
No, I mean, look, Rodgers kept his composure in the game against Cincinnati. They were in trouble in that contest in terms of a straight-up loss in trouble. But he kept his composure, which he's done many times, and the Packers got it done when they had to. 75 yards in 12 plays when they needed a touchdown. But one thing we haven't seen from Green Bay, we haven't seen any kind of a ground game yet to take the pressure off Rodgers. In the game against the Bengals, only 13 of the 65 plays were handoffs to running backs, 41 total yards in terms of handoffs to the backs in that contest. Ty Montgomery, someone we've talked about on this show before, only 41 carries for 124 yards through the first 3 games. Jamal Williams, just 5 of 21 off the bench. This is an offense that isn't clicking on all cylinders. And, of course, Green Bay with significant offensive line concerns. Check that injury report for Thursday night.
Yep.
We saw the money pouring in on Cincinnati on Sunday before kickoff after basically the Packers and 3 of the Packers' 5 starting linemen were ruled to be out. And then, of course, a 4th one got hurt during the game. So be aware of Green Bay's offensive line injuries. That affects the Packers' entire downfield passing game. And, of course, we talk about Capers and his ability to design a defense on the fly. Dom Capers is a bright defensive mind. And of their rotation this season, 10 players have been on the field for at least 90 plays so far out of 168 total, and only one of them a defensive lineman. So it has been mostly this new nitro package with 6 defensive backs. But I don't know, like I said earlier, that this defense is primed to stop a power ground game. They're allowing 4.5 yards per carry, number 25 in the NFL so far.
Very good. Game number checked out. Right. It's hard to give an opinion on a Tuesday when we tape this, knowing how long the injury report's going to be. Game number 2, live odds, BetOnline, sponsored by BetOnline. Cubs and the Cardinals from St. Louis. Arrieta against Martinez. Cardinals $1.15, 8 the total. Cubs out to clinch. Magic numbers 1. 6-game lead over the Brewers. Cardinals cannot win the division. They are 2.5 out of the second wild card. They're a game behind Milwaukee. Those St. Louis hosts Milwaukee in the final 3 games. Arrieta getting healthy and back at the right time. Came off the DL, 5 decent innings at Milwaukee, and the fastball topped out at 94. They're going to need him big time for the playoffs, and he's been terrific. 6-2 in the second half with a 1.97 ERA. That's the best ERA in baseball in the second half. Madden, I didn't know what to expect. I thought Arrieta was really sharp. I was surprised at how good he looked. There's the quote. So Lester struggled. Lackey's been good. Arrieta's been good. You got Hendricks too. So I know the offense has been great, but remember, this is a team that was under 500 and 5.5 back at the break. They're 88 and 68 now.
Oh, yeah. And then the quotes coming out of Madden are, this is the best we've played all year. I feel good about this team going to the postseason. I mean, nothing but positive quotes from Joe Madden after what's been something of a trying season for the Chicago Cubs. But the questions do persist about the starting pitching. With Lester, Arrieta, Lackey, all of them got big question marks in front of them going into the postseason. But, of course, you're talking about a team that's 11-2 in their last 13 games because the offense is on fire. Went over the total by themselves last night. 86 runs scored during this 13-game span. You look at the other side of the equation. What are we talking about? Carlos Martinez. Take a look at his stats. 2015, 2016, guy looks like an ace. 2017, well, he's declined a little bit. There's only one issue that's kept Carlos Martinez from having as good a year this year as he had each of the previous two seasons. The strikeout per nine rate, 9.5. That's just fine. The ground ball rate, 51.3%. That's just fine. But the home run, the fly ball ratio, 16.6%. That's way above his previous career high of 11.5. The problem with Carlos Martinez this year, too many go-over balls. Plain and simple. That's the only thing different from 2017 compared to his stellar seasons each of the last 2 years.
And then when they met at Wrigley, he was on the mound. It was 2-1 in the bottom of the sixth of September 15th. The Cubs got 7 in the inning. 6 of the runs charged to Martinez. Lost his composure. There was a comebacker. He bobbled it. He threw it to Molina. He dropped it. And then things got out of control from there. Martinez threw a translator quote, "I feel like it should have been a double play. It's frustrating because there's obviously plays I can make that my team can make. I haven't quite been able to make certain adjustments." Bryant said he's one of the best in the game, in my opinion. To have a big inning against him and some good at-bats says a lot about this team and how good we are. And Bryant's right. They've been on fire. The offense has come alive, and the Cubs ready to wrap up the division. Give me Cubs Nationals to start the playoffs. It'd be a great series. We'll get back to this game with the play of the day in a second. Up next, it's the deep dive. Dave Mason from BetOnline. We'll talk about the Penn State win in the final seconds, TCU's upset win over Oklahoma State, and all the Raider money that went up in flames in the huge weekend for the books, and the players got beat up in the NFL. That's straight ahead on SportsBet. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Go to SBROdds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Welcome back to SportsBet Betting Insight today. Teddy Covers here, and I'm joined like we are every Tuesday with Dave Mason from betonline.ag. Dave, how you doing today? How'd you make out over the weekend?
The weekend was great, Teddy. I know last time we spoke last week, it was we got beat up a little bit the previous week, but now we made that money back and then some this past weekend. It was a great weekend for the house.
Let's start with the action on Saturday, because I know that Sunday was a great day for the books. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Saturday, was it as good as Sunday for the books? Were there any big decisions that went against you in college football?
No, it wasn't. It was a good day in college football for the house. All over, the whole weekend was good. Even Thursday night was great, off the charts in the NFL. But no, Saturday was good for the house. But it was nowhere near like Sunday. The house, I mean, the Saturday we won on Penn State was good for the house. Florida State, TCU was huge. That was the biggest bet game of the day. In Oklahoma, the players. South Florida Thursday was good for them. Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Virginia Tech. Those are the biggest games for the players. And again, Saturday was good. Really good start to the weekend for the house. But Sunday, it compared nothing to Sunday.
Well, let me ask you this, because I mean, certainly there was a grand total of one favorite that covered in the early betting action on Sunday. A couple favorites covered late, and there were a bunch of teaser killer games in Sunday's NFL, where all the teasers went down. Didn't matter how many points you took, 6 or 10, or even the 13-point teasers. No good. Did you pay out any parlays on Sunday? Any teasers, or was all of that ended up being cash in your guys' pockets?
Yeah, I mean, sure, there's some. I mean, we're so big and we have so many bettors. There's always people betting on every combination out there. But the vast majority of those tickets were just went to the house. It was just, I mean, it was really something, especially after last week. That's the thing you got to keep in mind. You're going to have these bad weeks. The player's going to have bad weeks, but you got to take every week, week by week, because it can all change next week. You know what I mean? But the house, 49ers Thursday was huge. Jaguars was huge. Bills, Bears, Vikings, the Texans, the Bengals, the Jets, and then that Sunday night game that Skins. I mean, that was just the biggest. That was the biggest bet game, regular season game in the history of the company. There's more money on the Raiders than we've ever taken on any other team during the regular season in the history of the company. So, and the money line, people were on the Raiders, and they're betting the over. So it's just, you couldn't ask for a better day. The players, they did win on the Falcons and Chiefs. Those are the biggest winners by far. But it was a really good day for the house.
So when you talk about that Sunday night game, where we used a quote, we used one of your tweets on yesterday's sports bit, talking about how it was the biggest game of the season, decision-wise. That's just because it's on Sunday night, right? Is Sunday night the biggest bet game every week, or is it still Sunday night or Monday night? Where do you guys get more action?
Either or, Teddy. It was that, but it's also the game. Raiders is that people are loving the Raiders now. It was that home, or that road favorite of about 3 points. Whenever you see those road favorites of 3 points, the public's going to be pounding them. It was people were down, so they're chasing that game late. A lot of factors. Monday night, Sunday night. I would say Monday night's, even if you take the same game and played it tonight, probably Monday night would even get a little bit more action. But, it's all those factors. What team is playing? Like I said, Raiders is so popular, and that spread, that -3 home road favor, is always a big bet game.
So I got into this business as a bookie in Ann Arbor back in the day. And I remember when I had a big Sunday, man, we were celebrating. I had one partner. And we would celebrate and high five. We'd go out for beers. When the bettors got burned, we would really enjoy it. So let me ask you this. The recreational players got destroyed this weekend. BetOnline, probably one of the best days in the history of the company when it comes to NFL Sundays. What'd you guys do? Did you celebrate? Did you drink beers? Or is it just, back to the grind? You don't know that it's going to last for another, it could be all the profits could be blown away tonight or tomorrow night. Is that the story?
I drank too many beers Saturday night, so there wasn't any beers in my last night. But no, I get what you mean. We were talking, we're chatting, we're virtually high-fiving each other. But, we've been in this business long enough that profit could go down next weekend. You know what I mean? All the favorites could cover next weekend, and a big chunk of that is gone. So yeah, you're happy, but also another concern. I work more on the marketing side, so I'm always looking at actives and everything. And after a weekend like that, your actives are going to go down a little. After a weekend where you get killed like last weekend, your actives go up. People have money in their account. Action goes up. After a weekend like this past weekend, people might, take a week off or something and might not bet as much as they did this past weekend. So that's always a concern too. You got to think of ways just to get people back. And, that most bettors realize, it's a week-to-week thing. Yeah, they got hammered this past weekend, but they won the weekend before, and this weekend's a whole new ball game. So we'll see what happens.
Sure. You don't want your bettors to go completely dry. Otherwise, you've made all the profits that you're going to make. Dave Mason, what I want you to do today when it comes to highlighting BetOnline, because last week you went through a laundry list of promotions, and I know that BetOnline has a ton of good promotions right now. Give me one top-notch promotion that our viewers can check out at BetOnline right now.
Right. Sounds good. Our 50% reload bonus expires this Saturday night, so you use promo code NFL17, NFL17 for a 50% bonus at betonline.ag. All the terms and conditions are found at betonline.ag/promotions.
Dave Mason from BetOnline, thank you so much for joining us here on SportsBit. We'll do it again next week.
Good job, Teddy. Good job, Dave. That's every Tuesday on SportsBit. Find out how the bookmakers did, and let's talk some shop there. Money time. Play of the day, as mentioned earlier, back to the Cubs and the Cardinals. Molina's questionable. Took the 2 foul balls back-to-back off the face mask. That check his status coming up. Betting number 957. Cubs are a dog now. Come on, they've been on fire. And the Cardinals limping to the finish line, even though they have something to play for. Cubbies took 3 out of 4 in Milwaukee, and the one loss, Wade Davis blew it in the 9th and the 10th. Blew them out yesterday. Cubs offense been terrific. Let's take the plus price. And Arrieta been dynamite in the second half. Plus price with the Cubs, 105. Betting number 957. Brian and the Cubs put the nail in the Cardinals' coffin tonight. We're back Wednesday. Little college football. There's 4 games Friday. Miami, Duke, USC, and Washington State. How good is that game? Loaded week coming up. The rest of the week, and tell your friends it's SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.